Hello, welcome to the Analyst Inside Cricket with me, Simon Hughes.
And I'm Simon Mann.
12th of September 2025, exactly 20 years ago, England regained the Ashes, and it was an incredible moment, wasn't it? It was an amazing build-up, actually, to this particular day. And we were in tenterhooks. We were on tenterhooks, weren't we? And until 5 p.m. on this day, actually, because the series was still in the balance until Peterson demolished the Australian bowling attack. And it was a very exciting day. And I know you were, Simon, you were watching it sort of hidden away somewhere. You weren't actually at the ground, but I should think you could have still felt the excitement.
Oh, totally. I mean, I was working on it, but in a remote studio. The whole series was gripping, and you didn't know which way it was going to go. I reckon until about, just from memory, around about 4 o'clock-ish, you get a sense that England were getting too many runs, that partnership between Ashley Giles and Kevin Peterson, and that England were going to hold on for a draw. But it was an absolutely gripping series, and the final day, from an English perspective, did not disappoint. An incredible series. Obviously, we're still talking about it. We'll still be talking about it probably in another 20 years, and hopefully they'll be talking about it in 100 years as well. I mean, we still talk about Bodyline, don't we? We still talk about 1981. So why won't we be talking about 2005 many, many years into the future?
Yeah, and of course it was the last day of live Test cricket on terrestrial TV on Channel 4. It was also Richie Benaud's last day as a commentator on English cricket as well. And you mentioned Kevin Peterson's brilliant innings there. We'll just actually hear a tiny bit of that just at the start of it, because of course we've been making this video series looking back at the great 2005 Ashes, and the last episode is about the Oval Test. And it was all, just all up for grabs still at the beginning of the fifth day, the 12th of September. England were 34 for 1 overnight. They then lost 2 wickets in 2 balls to Glenn McGrath, who'd come back from the dead almost in that series, having got a serious injury in the second test. He was back to his best in the 5th test, and he got Michael Vaughan caught behind, and then he got Ian Bell first ball, and he's on a hat-trick bowling at Kevin Peterson. This is what happened.
Here we go. Oh, it's got, has he got him? A big appeal, not out, hit him on the arm. They're all in the air. The Aussies reckon they had him. Peterson stood his ground.
Oh dear. Let's have a close look here. Shoulder, fantastic decision from Billy Bowden. He gets it right. The Australians were always going to go up because the gloves were close. Everything was close, but Billy Bowden has got that exactly right.
So what was interesting about that moment, intriguing in a way, was that the man who made that decision to reprieve Peterson, and of course no DRS in those days, was a New Zealander, Billy Bowden. Billy Bowden helped England regain the Ashes because in the end, Peterson, having been dropped by Wall at slip as well and almost caught by Matthew Hayden at slip, so he had a couple of escapes. He was top-edged and dropped on the boundary after lunch as well, but Michael Vaughan gave him the confidence to play his natural game, and of course he then took the Australians apart after lunch and made that incredible innings of 158, which he still regards as one of his finest innings, one of the finest innings ever played by an England batter, actually. And as you say, by about 4:30 p.m., England were finally safe and could regain the Ashes.
We'll talk about lots of other things in the cricket world, but just we talk about how exciting that final day was, Josh. But nothing, surely nothing can be as exciting as the fact that Rory Bremner impersonated you on Bremner, Bird and Fortune. How did that come back? And where are the videos of it? Where's the recording? Surely it must be somewhere there on YouTube. How did he do that?
Well, I've hunted high and low for it, actually, and I can't find it anywhere. So this was an episode of Bremner, Bird and Fortune, the comedy sort of satire series, and they decided to do, and this shows in a way how prominent cricket had become this summer, 2005, because even a comedy show was kind of mimicking the commentator. So there was a little sequence where they mimicked Boycott and Benno talking about the government, and then Rory Bremner kind of put a stripy shirt on with a big collar, the type of shirt that I used to wear in the truck, and he put a bald wig on as well, and he basically sat in what looked like my VT truck and did a piece about Tony Blair's pronouncements on the Iraq War. And he did a split screen, just as I might have done about the cricket, and he put on one side a Blair pronouncement from 1998 or something, and then another one from 2003, where he totally contradicted himself. It was actually very funny and very well done. And sadly, I can't find it anywhere. But it was somebody said, "Oh, you finally made it," to me, because I've been mimicked online. So flattery is the highest form of so imitation is the highest form of flattery, isn't it? Is that true?
Indeed. So apparently when I read about it, I thought that was something that really lodged in my mind. Forget Peterson, forget the drop catch, forget the fact that Billy Bowden gave Peterson not out correctly there, wasn't it? It came off his shoulder, didn't he?
It was a brilliant decision. I mean, you can see this if you're watching this on YouTube. You'll see the moment actually where it just brushed his shoulder. It was a brilliant decision, and if he'd given him out, which he could easily have done, then the whole story and probably the match would have been totally different, and England wouldn't have regained the Ashes. And of course, you can watch all this on our special series, which we're featuring on the Crickverse, our blog site. I'll put the link to the Crickverse on the podcast notes at the end of the show.
And talk about watching things. Something caught my eye this week. It's a Cricket Australia video to try to promote people to come along and watch this summer in Australia, so our winter. So Australia have got a series against India. This is the men, and of course the men's Ashes coming up as well. It was a 38-second promo video which ended with the words, "No matter how you see it, you need to see it live." And it was exciting, and it really made you want to come along. But I noticed they couldn't help but put in the Bairstow stumping at Lord's in their sort of sequence of videos and just little vignettes of previous incidents in cricket matches, not just in the Ashes. The Bairstow stumping was in there. It's the noise, it's the chaos was the line next to it.
Which, of course, is true. And that's what makes the Ashes, so compelling. I mean, we'll do more build-ups towards the Ashes, which is, only 2 and a bit months away now, as we go through the next few weeks. I mean, I suppose just as a final thought about that 2005 series, actually the moment when England won, and then there was the presentation of the urn, which of course was actually my urn from the truck, because they hadn't got one of their own out there. So my replica urn was used by the presentation party to give it to Michael Vaughan. Then England did their lap of honour, and the crowd singing "Land of Hope and Glory" actually at the Oval. It was amazingly moving. I was with Michael Atherton at the time, who'd done the presentation ceremony, and he played in 7 Ashes series and lost all of them. So to him, it was a very emotional moment, and it was a massive party afterwards, not just for the England players, who obviously paraded their success around Trafalgar Square the next day, and barely went to bed, and then went to the Prime Minister's number 10 Downing Street as well. But for us, for the Channel 4 team, who had a wrap party, to commemorate our 7 years on air. And that ended at about 24 hours after the final ball was bowled as well. So it was a big night of celebration and triumph.
Where did that take place?
We ended up in some hotel somewhere in Victoria, in the middle of the night, with Michael Slater playing the guitar, playing all sorts of Bon Jovi numbers, and people singing along, and cameramen and producers and people all in an absolute state of total inebriation.
And Richie gone to bed?
Richie wasn't there, actually. Richie Bremner wasn't there. I mean, it's not his thing to go and get completely drunk. He likes his couple of glasses of Chardonnay, and that's good enough. So, no, he wasn't there. But, a lot of the others were, and it was memorable.
Well, I'm sure it was. And what we're hoping, of course, is the next Ashes series is going to be memorable as well. Some tremendous cricket. What did Brett Lee say the other evening in the Virtual Cricket Club about Pat Cummins? So as one fast bowler talking about the fitness of another, Brett Lee's played a lot of international cricket. He had his share of injuries. You know what it's like to try to get you back through a career. What did he say about Pat Cummins, Jos?
Well, he was really good actually, and we're still trying to find the recording at the moment. So we recorded the interview with Brett, and he was brilliant actually. Frustratingly, the recording is being difficult to locate for some reason, technical issues. But he was very interesting about Pat Cummins, and basically he said it's not a full blown back injury yet, but he remembers, Brett himself remembers getting back problems, and you're just not quite sure when you start feeling the back injury which you used to have, whether it's going to resurface in full sort of intensity or not. You're not sure, so he thinks that Cummins was cautious. He made the point actually, Brett, that after a day of or a test match of bowling, if you go under a scanning machine, the whole of your back lights up with all sorts of problems. And in Pat Cummins' case, clearly something was particularly worrying, and so that's why he's rested ever since. Brett was saying, will he really know that he's fit enough to play a full part in the Test series before the moment comes? Because there's nothing so intense as a Test match or an Ashes Test match, and how's he going to really test it out? So it may be that he's not fully fit for the start of the series. It may be that he might only be ready for the second or third test. Who knows at this point? But he was certainly a little worried about it from Australia's perspective.
Okay, well, that's going to be one of the stories of the build-up, isn't it? And there'll be plenty of others as well. We should turn to domestic matters. Lots of issues to be sorted out in the next couple of weeks. The County Championship title, T20 Finals Day this weekend. There's the Metro Bank final next weekend as well. So all the honours are going to be handed out in the next couple of weeks. And what a thrilling finish to the season in the County Championship. Surrey, no procession to another title, not by any means. They have got a huge game starting on Monday against Nottinghamshire. Worcestershire's old boys went back and did the job against Worcestershire for Nottinghamshire, with Tongue to the fore, taking 7 for 111 in the match. And what we should return to, Yoz, is our five that we've been following this season. We've given them a bit of a break, haven't we, while the India series was on, and while we took a pause for the 100, and we played you all our memories of 2005. But we should return to our five to follow, the five we were going to follow throughout the season, to see how they were getting on. And Josh Tongue was one of yours. 4 for 52, 3 for 59, 711 in the match, and runs as well, as Nottinghamshire squeaked home against Worcestershire by 3 wickets. Vital win, and it does set up a fascinating game. Let's hope the weather plays ball, as it didn't this week, really, and lots of draws around, but an incredibly important win for Notts.
Yeah, and they recovered, didn't they, from a sort of about 90 for 6, chasing a smallish score, 135 or so. But Tongue and Lyndon James put together a key partnership there for the 8th wicket to get them over the line. I watched a bit of it actually, and it was quite nervy. And Worcester really fought hard. Of course, they are basically consigned to the second division. Worcester now, they're right at the bottom of the table, about 35 points below Durham in 9th place. So Worcester probably will be in the second division next season, and not 1 point behind Surrey. I'm going to go to that game on Monday at the Oval. That sounds exciting. That's going to be really a tussle, and I suppose it was interesting actually. Warwickshire at Surrey this week decided to field first, didn't they? They won the toss. Quite a key thing, I think, at the Oval, if you can win the toss, to stick them in, because Surrey like to field first themselves, don't they? And put the opposition under pressure with a kind of helpful seeming wicket. So let's hope for the sake of sort of interest, I suppose, let's hope Notts manage to win the toss on Monday. So who were the others that you had to follow? So I had Josh Tongue as one, and I mean, I could just pick out another one who's done really well this season. I had Rayan Ahmed in my list of 5 to follow, and of course 500s and 23 wickets at 19 as well. And funnily enough, I did call at the time when we picked him as one of the 5 to follow. I did call for him to be given more chance with the bat, because I felt that he looked promising with the bat, but tended to bat in a sort of number 7 or 8 way when he was down the order, just play shots and not really kind of put much pride on his wicket. And they did. They put him up to number 3 partly to fill in for an absentee, and he delivered. And so then it got him to open for a bit, and then he was back to 3, and he's delivered with 500. So absolutely fantastic, and been one of the reasons why Leicester won promotion yesterday, holding Gloucestershire to a draw. Your Gloucestershire, obviously rain influenced. Ian Holland, who's been a regular guest on this podcast as acting captain, was not out when the draw was achieved, and he's sort of paid a lot of tribute to the coaching staff and to the togetherness of the team. Leicestershire, who will be back in the First Division for the first time for 22 years next year.
Yes, a great story. It's a fantastic story, and they've dominated the Second Division this season, right from the start. So congratulations to them. What about your others that you've been following this season? Let's finish off with those.
I mean, they haven't done, especially well. Jack Carson, the off-spinner from Sussex, he bowled Hampshire out in one game, got 5 for, but that match is now tarnished because Hampshire have been docked 8 points for that pitch, and it's put them into the sort of potential relegation zone. Although they didn't benefit from the pitch, they still got the penalty. But anyway, Carson overall, he's taken a few wickets, but at high cost, 41. I mean, it's not easy for an off spinner, I suppose, in a county season. He might come into it, I suppose, in the last couple of games if the pitches are dry. So, he's done an okay season. Archie Vaughan averaged 25 with the bat, hasn't had much chance with the ball for Somerset because of Jack Leach being there as a sort of premier spinner. So Archie Vaughan, promising, has moved up and down the order a bit. He opened, he's dropped down to 7, he's scored a couple of 50s, but hasn't quite established himself in that batting order yet. But lots to work with potential-wise. And then there's Alex Davis, captain of Warwickshire, who, has averaged 29, done a solid job, nothing spectacular. How about you?
Well, my 5, in the last round of matches, 3 of them didn't play. Sonny Baker had that difficult debut. We'll talk about him in just a moment. Shoaib Bashir, of course, he's recovering from injury. And I picked him at the start of the season. I was just fascinated to see how he was going to get on this summer against India, how they were going to play him, whether he was going to sustain it and therefore be a credible option for the Ashes. Well, the last thing he did in the series was win them the match at Lord's when he took that final wicket, when Siraj played back and played on. So I presume that he's going to be England's main spinner in Australia. Nothing that's happened since has dissuaded, I think, anyone from that view. Whether it's the right way to go remains to be seen. And it may well be that England don't play a frontline spinner right at the start of the series, but Ben Stokes likes playing a spinner, so you'd imagine Bashir will play if he's fit. Of course, Sam Cook. Now, Sam Cook, he didn't play in the last round of matches. He got a finger injury in the 100. He's had one of those who, if he'd had a great summer, might have been right in the England frame, but he's had a really disappointing summer, difficult time of it. He's only played 6 games for Essex, 16 wickets at 35, just when he needed to sort of continue the form of the last few years. It's not, for one reason or another, it's not gone right for him. He had that, again, another one. He had a difficult debut against Zimbabwe. And McKinney of Durham just made 100 in the last round of matches, averaged 34. He's had a couple of injuries as well, concussion injury. And also, has this ever happened to you? He got injured in a lift. So he had a bag on his shoulder, and he bent down to press the right button, and he got in a back spasm, and he was out for a while with an injury. What was your most bizarre injury? I suppose craning your neck to watch the ball disappear over your head. That might be one, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, my most bizarre injury is breaking my collarbone going down the Crest Run, but obviously that doesn't really count because it wasn't on the cricket field. I did nearly get injured in a lift, actually, once, but it was sort of, I suppose, self-inflicted because Charlie Sale, the Daily Mail columnist, had just had another pop at me for being a journeyman cricketer out on the middle being for some reason looking at the pitch, and he didn't think I should have any right to, as a journeyman cricketer, be out there looking at the pitch for some reason. So he had a pop at me, as he
during
does
Channel
regularly
4
too.
broadcast. During a Channel 4 broadcast.
It was Channel 5. I was a Channel 5 broadcaster at the time, and he, for some reason, he didn't think I was entitled to be out there. But he likes to pick his sort of easy targets. And I met him in the lift going up to the media centre at Old Trafford, and as he went out, I was gonna say something. And then he went out of the lift. And so I was about to sort of punch him, and I punched the lift door instead, very hard, in frustration, and hurt my knuckles a bit. But it didn't stop me doing anything, really. It inhibited my typing for a day, but probably that wasn't a bad thing.
Probably just as well he punched the lift rather than someone else, Jos.
Correct.
I think, yeah, good ultimate restraint there. Well, just finishing my 5 to follow, James Rew has had a good season for Somerset. And I mean, like McKinney, he's a promising young player, one to keep an eye on. McKinney not perhaps had the progress this season, but he is only young. He's only 20. James Rew, 930 runs at 46. He's right up there as one of the leading run scorers in the First Division. I have to say, Jos, one thing that caught my eye just looking at the First Division averages and stats this season is that the 3 batters who've made 1,000 runs this season are all players who've opened the batting for England. You can imagine if you go back 30 years with an Ashes series coming up, we go, oh, who's it going to be? Is it going to be Sibley? Is it going to be Hamid? Is it going to be Lai to partner Ben Duckett in that first Test match? Look at their county record, which selectors set a lot of store by back in the day. But of course, there's absolutely no chance of that. Zach Crawley, whose numbers don't stack up in the same way and never have, is guaranteed, is absolutely nailed on to open the batting in Perth. But Sibley, Hamid, Lai, they've all made 1,000 runs. They've all played for England. And it would actually be a great personal triumph, wouldn't it, for Hasib Hamid if Nottinghamshire were to go on and win the county championship. I mean, that'd be a great story, really. You think the difficulties, that kind of the rise and fall and now rise again because he's had a really good time of it. And his Notts side have got an excellent chance. It's such a big game next week. And in a way, it's slightly disappointing that it's not the final game of the season with 1 point between. There's still another game to come for both sides. Surrey go to Hampshire and Notts play Warwickshire. So there's anything, and the weather's going to, you hope the weather doesn't get involved with, but it might do. Do you get lucky? Is a particular day rained off? It can just decide things. I suppose the players will say, well, over the course of 14 games, then whoever, if you're top of the table, then you deserve to win the title. And the other thing to say, Jos, we've had all this debate this summer about the structure of the county championship and whether it should be 12 games. Let's talk about 13 games. A lot of members saying, we want to keep it at 14 games. It looks at the moment as though that's where it's heading. It's going to be the status quo. Surrey, their chairman's come out and said, we think it should be 14 games, and all 31 players apparently have voted for 14 games. What do you make of that? So we discussed it early in the summer, didn't we, about the possibility of change and just reducing the amount of days cricket. Well, at the moment, certainly for next season, it looks as though it's only going to be 2 fewer games, the 2 knocked off from the blast, but the championship's going to remain at 14.
It's exasperating. It seems that change is something very difficult to execute in the county championship. I quite liked Tim Bostock and Durham's suggestion of the 2 conferences, equal conferences of 6 teams, and then a sort of bottom 6 as a third group. I think there's sort of 12 teams that kind of probably merit First Division status, and then 5 or 6 that are kind of not so good. And
so you're consigning them to the dustbin, Jos, are you?
Well, no,
because that's what it will be eventually.
The dustbin. They can still get promoted back into those 2 conferences of 6, and I think 14 games is a bit too much. You see the bowlers getting injured quite early in the season. That's partly because all the games are compacted into that first couple of months. And obviously people will say, well, the 100 has been the problem because it occupies, it's like this sort of cuckoo that knocks everybody out of the nest for about a month and a half, and you can't kind of fit anything else in around it, sort of thing, well, championship-wise anyway. So I prefer slightly less games, and I quite like the conference idea, but it seems to have been rejected. I mean, what it has done is it's been accepted for the Blast, hasn't it, for next year? So they are going to sort of 3 groups of 6, and hooray, they're going to play the Vitality Blast finals in July rather than now in mid-September, which I think is a much more sensible idea, and it'll provide a real good focus for that tournament.
Yeah, you've got some continuity. Yeah, so finals day, I mean, it's been shunted around over the years. What's coming in mid-September. Again, it's one of those you hope for decent weather. I mean, and you also hope that it's going to be, reasonably warm at 9 o'clock when the denouement happens. When you get to the climax of the final, there's a much better chance, of course, of that happening if it's in July, as it's going to be next year. So Somerset are back there again, Hampshire are back there again. Northants are there, and Lancashire are there. I mean, last season an underdog won the title, so perhaps Northamptonshire might be able to tweak a few noses. So, and Hampshire, you mentioned Hampshire, being in a relegation battle in the championship, and actually that's one of the stories as well, as you alluded to. It's not just about the title; it's also about who's going to go down for next season. But Hampshire, right in there with chance of winning 2 titles, 2 white ball titles, right at the end of the season, with James Vince to the fore for them.
Yeah, but that's true. But I would be worried if I were them, because there are only 14 points that separate in the championship the 5th place and the 9th place. 5th place Essex, 9th place Durham. Only 14 points between them, and Hampshire, obviously having suffered that 8-point penalty for their dodgy pitch in earlier in the season against Sussex, that does really make them very vulnerable to being relegated. And I mean, I don't want to see a Durham or a Hampshire in the 2nd division. I mean, I don't want to see anyone in the 2nd division, really, I suppose. But they are, strong counties with really good support, and both of them have had investment in the last couple of years. Durham are doing a big deal with the Saudis, and obviously they've got the money from the 100, and Hampshire have done a big deal with Delhi Capitals, who bought out their team, so all the owners of Delhi Capital. So, I'd be quite worried if I were their owners and investors, because, in the 2nd division, you are more inferior, and it's less easy to attract sponsors and obviously crowd as well. So it's a bit of a worry, and it's fragile at the bottom of the table for a lot of those counties at the moment. Who knows who's going to go down with Worcester?
Yeah, it's going to make an exciting end to the season. The Hampshire have got 2 difficult games, Somerset away and Surrey at home in their final 2 matches of the season, and they are only 6 points ahead of Durham, who occupy one of the relegation spots at the moment. So a heck of a lot to play for. All we need now is decent weather. We are going to go to the Oval next week, Yoz, aren't we, for that championship match? So our next podcast will be from the Oval, or after watching a day's play at the Oval.
Just one final thought, actually, with the Brett Lee interview in mind, actually, is looking ahead to the Ashes. He emphasised the importance of Mark Wood for England. He said, I really love Mark Wood, and he's got to play. He's got to play in 3 tests to give England a chance. He made it that Australia would probably win 3-2, but he wasn't certain about it. Interestingly, he also said he's now moved to Dubai, Brett Lee, permanently from Sydney, and he's working on, and this is something that he couldn't reveal too much about at the moment, but he's starting an academy to find or generate bowlers who can bowl 100 miles an hour, because, of course, Brett Lee was one of the bowlers who managed to touch 100 miles an hour with 1 delivery. Do you know who it was against and who faced it?
Brett Lee. Brett Lee's 100-mile-an-hour ball. That's a good question, Yoz. I'd have to think about it, and I haven't got time to think about it now.
Don't worry.
That's very boring.
It was received by Craig Millen. It was received by Craig McMillan in a 1-day international in New Zealand, actually. I think he played it to safety. Anyway, Brett believes that it is possible to make more bowlers bowl 100 miles an hour. And so using a lot of science and technology and obviously some wannabes, he's going to see if he can find some players maybe based in the Dubai area, but from different countries. I think that's one of his missions, to create more 100-mile-an-hour delivery bowlers, which would be quite an interesting thing. And he reckons that just finally, we asked him, who's your Australian team for the first test? A lot of them pick themselves, obviously, including the bowlers if they're fit. But his opening pair would be Usman Khawaja and Sam Constas, interestingly. He thought that was the one they'd go with. So lot of cricket to play between now and then, but that was his punt. And as I say, he thought Australia might just sneak it 3-2 in the end.
Final question, Yoz, before we say goodbye. What was the fastest ball you bowled, do you reckon? Is there one that just sticks in your mind? Well, that one came out all right. That one certainly came out at 69 miles an hour.
Probably either a couple of deliveries that I bowled at Gloucester against Bristol, actually, where I took 6 for 30 against Gloucester one day and bounced them all out. And I remember David Graveney saying you were quick that day. And probably the other one was the day I cracked Robin Smith on the head at Uxbridge. And that just came from nowhere and smacked one of England's best hookers on the head, square on the head. It was totally taken aback, and wow, incredible. Tried it again 3 balls later. He hit me flat into a bush, and 6 crows exited the bush in a panic as the ball flew through the bush out into the road. So I didn't ever generate that delivery again, but I would say that was 87, 88 miles an hour, something like that.
No further questions, Your Honour. Thanks very much for listening, everybody. Goodbye for now.